They tell you this in English 101 that the best way to learn the English language is to read. And whatever level you're at, supposedly if you read enough, that you'll become a mastery at it soon and you'll be reading and analyzing Shakespeare or whoever. But this is a Western concept, a very modernist one called pleasure reading. Certainly we all love to read, don't we? And reading does have an enjoyment to it, and there's many genres that we can read from. However, there's this whole subculture of pleasure reading from basically stay-at-home moms and cat ladies and women who double down and get their graduate degree in creative writing thinking they'll be the next J.K. Rowling. And so this whole paradigm of pleasure reading is affecting other realms of internet intellectualism and as well our daily lives, that there is no future but our own pleasure reading, that we're all just going to be stuck at our suburban homes and be reading pulpish critical theory books while doing no action. Pretty much. And so most academics I know as well are also told themselves from this old paradigm to pleasure read, journal exclusive textbooks about game design and women's studies. Let me further elaborate. So right now, these are on my book table, and I've been looking at these books again in the past. I recently bought a signed copy of Logos Rising, A History of Ultimate Reality by E. Michael Jones. I've also have this signed copy of James J. O'Mara, Green Nazis in Space, who I met in New York City. And my brother actually brought home the collected K-Punk, the work of Mark Fisher, who, as you know, probably wrote on his own blog, Nobody Read, and this narcissistic liberal Fed, as on the front cover, as if the stars are aligned that we're all worshiping Mark Fisher, our capitalist realist god. But anyway, I read all these three works, and I'm starting to realize that they all have something very similar in common. While each author has their own ideological bent, Jones being a radical anti-Semitic Catholic, Mark Fisher being a Fed CIA liberal visual culture creative pro-communism to neoliberal Americanism agent, and James J. O'Mara simply just an eccentric yuppie Alan Watts guy who watches too much Mystery Science Theater in 3000 and thinks Pomo should be fascist. So yeah, we could say Catholic, neoliberal, and fascist. And it also looks like the Chipmunks too. One's red, one's blue, one's green. These books are very interesting read, but they all read kind of very the same. And that is if you look at their citation pages. So the method of citation pages of how Jones, Fisher, and O'Mara work is very similar to each other. Usually you read the work for about 2,000 words long, and then you come across the endnote page. And the endnote page has note numbers from 1 to whatever, with the little teeny number above the sentence. You follow the note number. It shows you what was the author cited, like, Spengler or something like that, and then the source title, The Decline of the West, and then the page number, page 101. And sometimes, and in Fisher's case, he'll replace the source title with the full internet link for perfect fakery, and why I say that is that the internet is very incredibly fleeting, and if you post a GeoCities site about acid communism from 2003, nobody is reading it, nobody's archiving it, and so you can pretty much fake evidence when you try to show people that. And sometimes, wherever it's James J. O'Mara, you can have a little teeny number, and then you can have a large diatribe or commentary that could just be in parentheses, for that matter. And so, whether you think this is some tradition of Mystery Science Theater 3000 postmodern parody, and postmodernism, the traits of Pomo is irony, eclecticism, doubt, ridicule, white class pretension, etc. This is all relevant in both Fisher and O'Mara's work. While less in Jones is more to the book and to, this citation that whatever China refutes Christianity, I'll refute back and give my own ideological reasons. So again, with these three authors, it's really more enjoyable to read citation than the work itself, but as well, it shows how shallow the authors can really be. Again, I'm not saying Jones is shallow, I'm just saying Fisher is very shallow. James J. O'Mara in a way, is more on terms of comic bookiness, where he's talking about gay boys in the West, and then I follow this little 5 note, and then all of a sudden he's having a large first-hand account about how he remembers Detroit, Michigan. And so all of this is a really creative way, and I'm not calling out Jones, Fisher, and O'Mara as being shallow. I'm just saying this is usually how Pomo style of citations really work. Probably in academia and community college to undergraduate to graduate for for-profit art school, normies and Americans are really told these styles of citating your quote-unquote academic work. And that's Chicago style, MLA style, APA style, and AP style. Two of the most important ones, Chicago style and MLS style, which I find really interesting, is starting in high school and all throughout undergrad, they force you to do MLA style. Well, ML style is not even accepted in the internet blogging world, and rather just a citation engine for you to, read Plato and then say, Plato, page 53, and kind of this dummy Monopoly Junior kind of ideology. But it's Chicago style that these academics are really basing everything on, from hearsay to witness to what's citation. And it's almost as if Chicago style becomes the de facto, this system of liberal science works, we're going to go with it, and whatever is cited, we can all borrow and go back to roots of evidence. As for APA and AP style, again, that's for psychology and Associate Press, or the journalism. And I had to do AP style for a bit. Those are a little more different, but they're just as good as corrupt. I remember doing AP style about journalism, and a lot of that is just nothing more than, believe in me, have faith in me. It's not even like, and as much as you're just trying to be the truth, there's just so many Hunter S. Thompson gonzo journalists out there, or RT Russian Today wannabe anti-cap journalists that will just throw the whole thing, and that goes out the gutter. I believe I have like a new edition of the AP style book given me for free, and I didn't even open it because I saw how useless it was. As for APA style, well, I'm not that a psychologist, and I did take 2 psychology classes. The thing with APA is that, well, these are the same people that say homosexuality is not a disease or not something mental, and the same people who will gradually take diagnosis and jumble them over the place. So if all these 4 citation systems all are at weakness to the author's ideological bent, and because of that, it's a matter of style. I should be more talking about what books I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading fighting fantasy books, The Farce, Ian Livingstone's book, The Farce of Doom. I enjoy his board games. I enjoy this goofy book, The Super Adventures of Wishbone, Dog Days of the West, which I found in the thrift store for only 25 cents, and I absolutely love the cover. I think this is like a perfect art book. It's not like some weird vaporwave argument or whatever, but I think it's a hilarious, funny kids book, and it's the most funniest thing I ever saw in my life, The Dog's Day of the West. And I enjoy The Legend of the 10 Elemental Masters by Nick Smith, who is a well-known YouTuber with Asperger's who've created this analytical video game / script. These are what I enjoy. They're certainly eccentric, but it's kind of underground that most normative people don't read this type of literature. They're free of citations, and it's the author's free artistic will, and at best you could call these pleasure reads by all definition. Now, this importantly shows that there's a class difference here, and this is what gentrifiers enjoy. They enjoy the Xenofeminist Manifesto. They enjoy Dom DeLillo, and they enjoy some zero books pulp about vaporwave and the commodification of ghost. I might have spoiled it early on about vaporwave, but point in being is that the difference between me and a gentrifier is that a middle-class individual looking for a cosmopolitan education will scurry on the floor and find anything related to the eclectic, the ironic, the insincere, the commercial apparent consumerism, all making pretentious and witty and far beyond goofy, way too fake queer culture stuff, from being a Nicklandian feminist to brushing up on your daily DeLillo about postmodern creative writing and simply trying to justify that your interest in vaporwave is somehow have to do with this Western canon of sorts, when these are all pleasure reads. As much as gentrifiers would like to tell you that the Xeno-Feminist Manifesto is something in the canon or something revolutionary, it's all just a Dick Hebdige, Rene Girard, and the memic desire of consumerism. If pleasure reading is consumerism, then we're not really learning anything. We're in our basically echo chambers, and we're doing, enjoying the day in the life of kind of like a plant that grows and dies in a way. And this is all just pretentious. This is the problem with pleasure reading as a whole, is that it keeps everyone in line. So again, I ask, what is the difference between sincerely reading the original Chicken Soup for the Soul versus reading Annihilation because you saw that Natalie Portman film, and a bunch of feminists in some cotton milge JSTOR, cat college is trying to argue that this is the greatest piece of feminist literature in the past, the 21st century. Nobody ever said Annihilation was a well-to-do pleasure read that everyone's reading. This is people in positions of power insulting those and controlling them at the bottom. There was no democratic or populist interest in Annihilation. It was forced upon people. It's a gentrified mannerism. And you compare it to the original Chicken Soup of the Soul, well, what is the difference between the text of goofiness and Annihilation versus the goofy text of a kid having cancer and then being free of his cancer? I see the same thing as difference, and you can have both the same pleasure read from Annihilation can translate over into Chicken Soup for the Soul. And as I'm doing these pleasure reads, I'm not gaining any knowledge. I'm kind of reasserting my own solipsism in a way. So I'm really asking, is that the postmodern conundrum is there such a thing as a Western canon of literature anymore, if that means one must be highly individualistic, liberal, white, and enjoy consumer capitalism? Because I just see the relation between pleasure reading as falling under all these things. And so it's time to break out of this mold that is isolating and killing us. Can we learn anything from our own liberal discoveries of the text, understanding, and sources provided? It's all like eating at McDonald's. Wishbone to Dom DeLillo to xenofeminism. It's all a Big Mac Whopper at the end of the day. And so my answer to this is that it's time to own the means of production and reclaim adulthood and meta-history paternalism. Yes, I borrowed meta-history from E. Michael Jones, but point in being is that we don't have a sense of being an adult and being a parent. We're like an adult baby enjoying pleasure reading so we can go on YouTube and make pretentious subcultures all around us. So let's stop enjoying our college-learned citation fetishism and return to reading as a form of human growth. I think that was ultimately the purpose of the English literature degree, was understanding logos and understanding the Western white man's world and going with it. Instead, the last Gen X and millennial generation believes that the only way you're going to sell a book is that if you have to write some book about hating white people, all while citing goofy cartoon characters about colonial feminism or some sorts, that the citation has made us even more secure, and we have to get rid of that in favor of looking back to the Aesop fable. And so this pleasure reading is not really helping anyone or anything. And so I provide the answer is that we must fix the mind, body, and soul, and that is to be unapologetic and sincere. And to me, that means working out in a gym every day, working 3 or 4 days a week. And the reason why I have the Holy Bible here is because this can be a surrogate for anything. It could be scripture. It could be reading the works of Muhammad. It could be an ideological one-person thing you're good at. And by having a Bible, quote unquote, we go upon this. This isn't like the xenofeminist Bible or anything. This is a Bible to help make us more into men. And in fact, don't even read the xenofeminist stuff. Just read the Bible. You know, we have to have a text that's unapologetic and sincere. And that is why I would be okay with someone who is fascist or communist openly, because their ideological bents are so sincere and powerful, they can do whatever they want to do. And they dress nice and they look sincere with their actions, and they mean what they say. It isn't so much like review bra or anything like that. It's more that we claim nature, that we took over the mind, body, and soul, and that we're no longer reading pleasure for our own fat guy, McDonald's eating xenofeminist consumerism, but we're now owning back what we can make. And so the answer clearly is something more of improving ourselves. So we must create better art, we have to stop subcultural isolation, we have to take radical action, and finally, be a caring adult to create a better paternalism, a paternal state, because there's no such thing as the individual being liberal. Those are all pretentious things that control us. We must destroy the liberal paradigm and be a caring adult and return to paternalism. Class dismissed. Thanks for listening.